All right, August breakfast. I'm Reed Gottesman, your chapter president for 2023, and it's really great to be here. And our people on Zoom and in person, thank you. All right, we're going to start with our President Circle sponsors. Or I could wait. I'm just going to wait. Hey guys, hey, we got a program here. Let's get started, all right? Thank you. All right, that's much better. Thank you, everyone. All right, our President Circle sponsors, they're a critical component to NAIOP's success. And we're going to start with our platinum sponsors. Cox Business is a platinum sponsor, and they have supported our chapter for 19 years, and we really, really appreciate everything they do for us. And next, we have Schnitzer Properties, also a platinum sponsor, and they have been a supporter of our chapter since the turn of the century in 2000. Moving on to our gold sponsors. I will list them out. Kimley Horn and Associates. I see Mariano right here in the front. Spotlight 2023 Engineering Firm of the Year. Majestic Realty. I don't know if Rod's here or not, but he's certainly one of the MVPs of our Southern Nevada chapter. Nevada General Construction, I know Micah's here. Thank you for all you do for the chapter. Panettone Development, I saw Phil, who's one of our board members. Prologis, Lisa Brady's right here. And they are the 2023 Development Firm of the Year. And of course, Southern Nevada Water Authority, who we'll talk about more in just a few minutes, but we appreciate everything they do. And then our remaining President Circle sponsors, our silver sponsors. Next are our bronze sponsors. And finally, our copper level sponsors. All right, if you're thinking about President Circle sponsorship, please do it. You're really going to get more out of it than you think. Don't hesitate. Lisa Brady's here. You can talk to her. You can speak to Jonna. A number of folks here to talk to. Lots of options, but really make it happen. You won't be sorry. I've actually never heard any President Circle sponsors ever be sorry they did it. All right, before we get into committee announcements, I want to announce once again, NAIOP National's CRE Converge is Wednesday, October 18th through 20th in Seattle, Washington. It's West Coast and Pacific time zone this year, so it's really very doable. It's the premier industry event connecting commercial real estate developers, owners, investors, and brokers from all across North America. And we have a really good group attending from our chapter, but we'd love to see even better representation. So sign up and head to Seattle for Converge. And you could obviously go to the website to sign up for that. Early bird registration through mid-September. And I'm going to mention that NAIOP's Nationals Icon Conference is September 12th and 13th. And it's in Atlanta for industrial real estate cold storage. So you can register for that as well. All right, why don't we get our committee chairs up and for the announcements. Star-studded group here.
Morning. Jerry Doty with the Bus Tour Committee. November 1st here at the Orleans virtual bus tour format again. We do have sponsorships remaining for Submarket, buses, tables. Stop at registration on your way out for commitment form. Early bird registration email coming out here shortly. Hope to see you there.
Good morning, Tony Castagno with Fidelity Title, representing the Community Service Committee. As you see our table over here, I just want to announce that we're still doing our August school supply drive for Hollingsworth Elementary. So this is a downtown Las Vegas elementary school, could use some extra love. So please, if you haven't looked at it yet, come after the meeting, meet us at the table. There's a QR code on this flyer over here. You can scan that QR code and purchase items directly from Amazon. So please help out. We'd appreciate it, whether it's you personally or through your companies, whatever you can do to show these kids some love, we appreciate it. So thank you.
Good morning, Jennifer Turchin with the Education Committee. We have our third program of the year next Friday, the 25th at Las Vegas Realtors, and it's going to be a deep dive into the legislative session with our lobbyists, John and Carrie. So if you haven't signed up, registration is available on the NAIOP website, and it is members only. So come and learn what you don't know about the last legislative session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Gaetana Cafaso with Burke Construction Group on behalf of the Spotlight Awards Committee. So crazy to think we're talking about 2024, but save the date. The 27th Annual Spotlight Awards are February 24th at Red Rock Casino. Sponsorships will be out later this month, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks.
Morning, everybody. I'm Micah with Nevada General Construction here on behalf of the Membership Committee. We officially have our social event of the year on the books, September 28th, save the date. More information will be pouring out as we go. It is our 25th anniversary Oktoberfest, and it will be hosted at the Uncommons in the Quad. A big thank you to the folks at Matter and Uncommons for hosting us as our title sponsor. They are really making sure that we have a great 25th anniversary for this event. There'll be a German band, German food, just going to be a really, really good time. Everybody in the room needs to be there. There are also $500 marketing sponsors for that event. If you have any questions about that, please give me a holler or Jonna. Back to you, Reed.
And that is going to be a really cool event. Good job kind of changing it up a little bit, guys. That's awesome. And Gaetana, that is crazy. You're talking about Spotlight already. So, new members. Do we have any new members here today? All right, stand up, please. How about a big round of applause? All right, welcome. Somebody please say hello to our new member. Membership, we're doing really, really well. Top 10 sponsor. We're pushing up towards 700 members. Not there yet, but we will get there. If you're considering membership, just talk to Jonna, Katrina, any of these guys. All right, breakfast sponsors. We'll take a moment and recognize this year's breakfast sponsors, 9 companies critical to the success of these really awesome programs. We'll start with Affordable Concepts, Carpenter Sellers Delgado Architects, Cox Business, Dermody Properties, Gensler, Martin Harris Construction, NV Energy, Schnitzer Properties, Southern Nevada Water Authority, and SR Construction. All right, really special breakfast sponsor today. It's our good friends at the Southern Nevada Water Authority. These guys are dedicated to make sure that our great city and metropolitan area will be here and continue to thrive for generations to come. So hopefully some of our kids can be sitting in this room at the Orleans 20 years from now. The SNWA has been a valuable supporter of the chapter since 2021. I'll give a quick bio on Mike Bernardo of the SNWA. Mike is the Enterprise Conservation Division Manager for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. He oversees the organization's water conservation programs for commercial and industrial sectors, including the state-mandated removal of non-functional grass. His division is also responsible for the rebate and incentive programs specific to enterprise businesses, such as the Water Efficient Technologies Program that provides funding for the implementation of innovative technologies that reduce water use. And what I love about Mike is that he graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and that's located in good old, beautiful Newark, New Jersey, NJIT. Mike holds a bachelor's degree in both mechanical engineering and business, and he holds a master's degree in public administration and a doctoral degree in public policy from UNLV. Right? Licensed professional engineer in the state of Nevada, certified project management professional, lead accredited professional in business design and construction. Very impressive resume, Mike. Come on up to the stage.
So when you're an Italian from New Jersey and you live out west and you're not in the casino industry, you need an impressive resume for people to take you seriously. So thanks, Reed. So good morning. If you haven't yet, we have a booth in the back. Patrick and Jen are back there. Say hello. They're talking about our rebate programs. But today I'm just going to do a quick update just to talk about what this means to us. So we at Southern Nevada Water Authority are thrilled to continue our partnership with NAIOP. For me, only being with the Water Authority since March, this group was one of the first I was introduced to. And y'all are the movers and shakers of commercial development here in the Valley. That being said, while looking at sponsorship dates, today's panel jumped out at me. Retail reinvented. What reinvention means to me is approaching things differently, innovating, challenging the status quo. That's who we are at SNWA. We're globally recognized as a leader in conservation, and we too challenge the status quo every day to ensure the water scarcity or water security of our community. There are two quotes, those that know me, that I reference too often. So one is an engineering thought, is you can't manage what you don't measure, and the other's from policy side, is awareness is the precursor to action. So as we continue to work with you to lead the way for thoughtful and sustainable development, we need your feedback. We need awareness of your barriers and how we could possibly help lift them. For example, I received feedback that $500,000 for the ceiling of an evaporative cooling conversion doesn't even pay for shipping, in some cases, right? So at last month's SNWA board meeting, there was an agenda item to remove the annual cap on evaporative cooling conversions that was successfully passed. Now we will pay up to 50% of your total project costs as long as we have the funding available. Hopefully that eliminates some barriers for some of you. So we need to do better together. Evaporating 50 golf courses worth of consumptive use a year on evaporative cooling isn't sustainable for our future. So my call to action for you today is, if you haven't yet, come start a dialogue with me or anyone on my team or from SNWA. Help us understand your barriers to entry so together we can reinvent how we cool the valley and protect our most precious resource. So that being said, there's some monsoons coming over the next week. Adjust your clock, irrigation clock, or your watering times. Save millions of gallons of our precious water supply by getting free water from Mother Nature. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you to SNWA. All right, this year, each month at our breakfast program, we're recognizing contributions of individual NAIOP members that have been currently making in the past. This year, January, we recognize good buddy Sean Donosky, DC Building Group. February, Jen Turchin, Coda Group. March, Jennifer Levine of Realcomm Advisors. April, Dina Marcello, Colliers International. May, Micah Durham, Nevada General Construction. June, past President Kyle Nagy, ComCap Advisors. And in July, Jonna Savage, NAIOP, Southern Nevada. So please hold your applause for a moment. And today we have a special. We have a 2-for-1. And we're going to recognize two of our up-and-coming broker members. These two both got involved with committees right after they joined NAIOP. They co-led the Community Service Committee's Make-A-Wish granting this year. And today they're being recognized because their efforts helped to raise over $30,000 to grant our first ever wish, which is really, really cool stuff. Guess stand up Chase Pavlov, who is a senior associate at Colliers International and has served on the Community Service Committee since he joined NAIOP last year. He recently graduated from NAIOP's Dolly Program's inaugural class. And then we've got Cooper Powell, stand up as well. Look, they're together. Cooper's a senior associate at Logic Commercial Real Estate, and he's been involved in the membership and community service committee since he joined in 2021, and he's currently in the DLI class, graduating in September. So let's put our hands together for 2 up-and-comers. These guys are doing great, making waves in the industry and really coming up in this organization. So good work, guys. Happy to recognize you. All right. We're going to get into why we're here today, today's program. Dan Tutlin's in the back. DT, as you know, leads the Q&A session at the end of the program. There's paper and pens on each table. Write down your questions, and committee members will come by. And we'll ask after during the Q&A session. And for those participating in Zoom, it will be monitored. All right, I will introduce our moderator and our panel, and then I'm going to get off this stage. And today's moderator, I'm very excited to introduce because I had the privilege of hiring her fresh out of UNLV. And it's been really cool to watch Areeba grow and mature into the professional that she is today. And I'm thrilled to be a spectator and watch her lead this panel. So Areeba Moten is a senior associate at Colliers International, where she's an important member of the Malin Marcello retail team. She's responsible for retail landlord representation as well as tenant representation. She was previously with Logic Commercial Real Estate, and of course began her real estate career at Schnitzer Properties, where she was a leasing machine responsible for about 2 million square feet of industrial, retail, and even just a little touch of office product. And to top it all off, Areeba is a proud member of NAIOP's DLI program. Areeba, why don't you take a seat? All right, now our panelists. We'll start with Randy Aguilar. Randy has a really cool job where he's a director of leasing with Stations Casinos. He has been an executive in the hospitality business for 30 years. Lately, he has been focused on leading the leasing efforts of the soon-to-be-open Durango Casino and Resort, as well as all third-party transactions within the Stations Casino portfolio. I won't get too deep into Randy's bio, but he has amazing experience in the industry and is a proud graduate of the Louisiana State University and holds an MBA from Western Governors University. Randy, why don't you step up? Next up is Michael Casper, and he's the Vice President of Business Development at Area 15. For those in the audience that have not yet been to Area 15, it is immersive, it's cool, and I'm sure Michael will tell us all about it. Area 15 has welcomed an astounding 4 million visitors since opening its doors in 2020. And Michael has been in the hospitality business for more than a decade in both North America and places such as London and Istanbul. Michael is a graduate of Washington University in St. Louis. Why don't you step up? And Frank Volk, Executive Vice President at CBRE. Frank specializes in large-scale mixed-use projects within the Las Vegas market. Frank has over 20 years of experience and to date has completed transactions in excess of $1.5 billion in his career. And I'm told he's just getting started. So Frank, please step up to the stage. And before I relinquish this microphone to Areeba, I want to say that this panel is definitely way cooler looking than most of our panels. And with that, I'm stepping away. Areeba, it's all yours.
Thank you, Reed, for the lovely intros. Is this on? Can we hear me? Okay. So first I want to say thank you. Thank you, Reed, for the intro. And it's an honor to be able to lead this panel. I think I'm really excited for everyone to hear what is going on in experiential retail. But first I want to start by defining what that means to me, because I have a little bit of a different background and a different perspective than the panel. So I think when most people think about experiential retail, they're immediately thinking bouncy houses, Chuck E. Cheese, you know, your neighborhood stuff that you can go and have an experience with your kids. But we've come a long way. In traditional retail centers, entertainment users like that are historically restricted in CC&Rs or in other tenants' leases because landlords and tenants wanted grocers or traditional retail uses that brought shoppers into a center. The shopping experience has changed so much over the past decade, and even more so now, post-COVID. And now we're more focused on drivers that get people to the center, regardless what they're there for. There's been a 180-degree shift, and today's retailers and owners have a different view on these uses. And now they're seen as uses that can revitalize an asset and fill large vacancies at the same time. Once you bring a good experiential retail concept, which our panel is going to give you a good few examples of, they bring with them a diverse tenant mix, diverse visitor demographic, elevated branding, innovation, and a fruitful use of oftentimes very underutilized big box large vacancies. The center usually benefits from increased foot traffic, better sales across the board because you're bringing in these users that are bringing in more bodies. So I'm going to let our panel kind of speak on that. Randy, if you want to start, kind of just tell us what got you into where you're at now and what you're seeing in your industry.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I feel sort of dumb being around all you smart people. But I started in the shopping mall industry straight out of college, and I moved around the country. I used to work for a company called the Simon Group, owns the Forum Shops, another company called Forest City. I actually moved to Las Vegas to open the Galleria at Sunset as a marketing director like 200 years ago, it feels like. But as soon as I got to Vegas, we opened the Galleria, and I just knew in my mind that I was tired of operating shopping malls. It just wasn't my thing. I wanted to, obviously in Vegas, I was itching to get into the gaming business. And at the time, gaming, as far as retail and casinos, it was very little. The Forum Shops had opened, but that was, it was still in its infancy. And most casinos, we had just really weird retail. Gift shops, they did a lot of money, but nobody cared about them. And we usually put them in the corner, that type of stuff. So I started my career at the Rio. Back in the time when Rio was really cool. Not what you, I should preface that, not what you see today. But they're going to fix that.
It's about to be again.
Supposedly. But anyway, we opened the Masquerade Tower. We had some cool retail. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was cool. And then we had a big spot. We had about 18,000 feet that was undeveloped. And they came to me and said, well, what do you want to do with that? And I'm like, I don't have a clue. Because I was still used to the shopping center model. I had these little boxes. And I'm like, what do we do with this? It's 4 walls. There's no air conditioning, no nothing. And so luckily, which is I think my whole career, by accident, somebody called me and they said, we got this Titanic exhibit. And it was one of the first ones in the country. And they came to me and I said, well, there's the box. And I said, I'll give it to you for a good rate. And but you got to build it out. And I didn't have a clue about that nonsense. They came out, they built this cool exhibit, and we saw immediately, people were drawn to that. And they did crazy business, and it's just cool stuff. And then after that, we did this exhibit out of Russia called the Peterhof. And that thing, we had Fabergé eggs and all that kind of stuff. And that thing really taught me the key about not just having a cool exhibit, but retail to go along with it. I had a store hooked to it that was doing like $60,000 a day and just selling books from the Peterhof. And that's where I got my first glimpse of these types of things. And so since then, we've seen the market move up into that area. So that's how I got into it.
Nice. Frank?
Kind of a similar story, but not through like normal retail background. Most of my book of business as a broker has been up and down the Las Vegas Strip. The Strip is generally like an experience economy already. Gaming's an experience, nightlife's an experience, food and beverage is an experience. Today's experiences kind of bundle those things together, right? So you're taking hospitality and bundling it with something else. So they're a lot more refined and focused now than they were, 20 years ago. So the market kind of came to me.
Mm-hmm. Michael, you could probably speak to that.
Yeah, so unlike these guys, I've never actually worked in retail or kind of the commercial broker side. I started my career in venues, opening music and sports venues, which I like to think are kind of the original experiential experiences. But they were only for a finite amount of time. And what's changed in the market with kind of retail coming up with experiential is now it's a 12-hour-a-day operation with Area 15 hopefully leading the way, and being able to drive people to retail property 12 hours a day instead of those 3 hours for music has been an interesting change in my career, and hopefully can get into Area 15 a little bit.
Yeah. So I want to start with something that when I was starting to look into experiential retail was competitive socializing, which is a huge part of experiential retail. Basically, the concept of you going out with your friends, eating, drinking, but also throwing axes or mini golfing or throwing darts like they do at the Venetian now. Can you speak on that and just how big competitive socializing has become in the industry?
I mean, certainly people just don't sit around and have drinks anymore. They want to do something while they're consuming food and beverage. And Topgolf being a leader outside, but I mean, essentially it's bowling alleys. They're all, that's the business model, sell a lane and then sell food and beverage off the back of it. So the business model isn't necessarily new. It's the increase of different experiences. So there's, as you said, axe throwing while drinking, which seems unsafe, but I promise it's fine. Go try it. To darts, to golf. It's really the kind of massively growing space. You have Chicken and Pickle opening in the suburbs out in Henderson, and it just really stems from that shortening of attention span and people wanting to do something as they're drinking, as opposed to just back 10 years ago, people just sit around a table and talk.
People are upset that Gen Z has a short attention span, but I think it's bringing good things to everyone. Frank, anything cool in your competitive socializing area?
It's not just one specific tenant, but to kind of build on what Michael said. It's you know, I think the guy that, I forget his name, is like Stanley or something, that coined the term competitive socializing. It really is taking an activity, maybe enhancing it by technology, pairing it with hospitality, food and beverage, creating an extended stay, therefore you're going to spend more money. Mm-hmm. That's the idea behind competitive socializing. And it touches all categories. So there's one for soccer, maybe not necessarily yet in the US, soccer, shuffleboard, all the things that he mentioned. Like almost anything, batting cages, anything you think of that you would do, it's coming. It's already somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. Boulder climbing. I don't think there's drinking in that one, but
no, not yet. I don't think. So we're seeing a lot of these concepts on the Strip already. Chicken and Pickles going into the St. Rose and Maryland corridor. Where are you going to see these concepts expand as they get more and more plenty? Do we see it going into certain pockets, or how do you see that panning out for the growth of the city?
Michael would say Area 15's off the Strip.
Area 15, but it kind of depends on the use case. The more land needed, I think pickleball is a perfect example of why it's not going on the Strip or at Area 15, just because the amount of space it needs. You see certain things going on the Strip, like swingers, mini golf. We're adding a couple competitive leisure concepts in our district expansion at Area 15. So I think it really depends on the size needed and kind of what it appeals to in terms of that local tourist mix.
Yeah.
And I also think you'll see some that enter on the Strip with a flagship, like a 20 or 30,000 square foot box, but also look at a suburb and go, can I do 5,000 or 7,000 square feet of the same thing? And is there a business case for that? And we're hearing there is, just hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. Randy, can you speak on Durango stations? We're all very excited to see that coming to life. Also the fastest moving construction that I think I've ever seen in my life.
I know. Yeah, I mean, we're super excited. It opens November 20th. We'll have the roads fixed by then, I hope. If you guys drive down it, it's sort of a disaster right now, but we'll have that figured out. Yeah, I mean, Durango's going to be unique. It's taking Red Rock to the next level, which, you know, it's an incredibly beautiful property. It's got to have 80 million restaurants, and we're going to open, you know, hope they all do well, because I leased them all, so they better do well. You know, this will be phase one. We are talking about a phase two, which will be, I mean, it's not a big plot of land, but there's a whole lot of stuff right there. And the great thing about that area, Frank and his team did the Uncommons, and it's just, to me, there's such critical mass in that area. And some of these experiences and things, when we were talking about this meeting a couple of days ago, I think Frank brought it up. Everything's an experience in a casino or wherever you go. If you go eat, that's an experience, right? If you go to a bar, that's an experience. You go to movies, you go to bowling, all these things. But I think the things that I was talking today about Michael about on the Area 15 stuff, what they've done to me is genius. Because I've been doing this for a long time, and when I first heard about that, I'm like, I don't get it. how does it go to work, man? There's some weird land there and it's around these warehouses and stuff. Didn't make sense to me. I always felt that, coming from the shopping center world, you had to have this destination, the Neiman Marcus and all this kind of mess. What they did is unbelievably great, I think, for this market, and opened up a whole new way of thinking. And then if you look at the Spear, again, I know it cost $8 gazillion, and I don't know if it's ever going to make you money, but I tell you what, to look at it, oh my Lord, you're like, man, that just, I call everybody around the country. I'm like, you guys, have you seen this thing? And I'm seeing pictures everywhere, and it's tough to be amazed in Las Vegas, right? But we're talking about today. I think what we do in Vegas, I think we're the best at what we do. I think you guys are at the best at what you do. I mean, this is a crazy market. You talk about New York, LA, Miami. Nobody does anything better than Las Vegas, Nevada. We have the best thinkers, the best producers.
Randy for mayor.
Yeah, I'm running. But what we do well in Station Casinos is that we take, I think, when tourists come to Vegas, they think we all live on the Strip. Obviously, we don't. Most of us don't go to the Strip except for special occasions or dinner or shows, what have you. But there's a real, and I think the success to our company is that they realized a long time ago that folks like to stay within their radius, within 5 miles. And so, but for us, it's incumbent as we build these casinos to not build slot boxes, because that's really not where the money's at. There's a lot of money there, but the most important thing for us is time. And I used to work for Caesars Entertainment, and I really learned a lot about that. I always thought that you get a guy come in, he's going to spend $1,000, we're good to go. You may not see that guy again. Mm-hmm. The deal, what Caesars did so well with their players card, they didn't rate you on money spent, they rated you on time. We need to get you for 2 to 3 to 4 hours. We need to get you at our property. And so at Station, as we look at new things, and Frank and I are working on some stuff for Phase 2 that I can't announce yet, but we're looking at things that will keep you at our property 5 or 6 hours. And even if you don't gamble, we'll still get your money somehow. We get your time, right?
The longer they stay, the deeper
exactly.
you get in their pocket.
And that's why if you look at our restaurants at Station Casinos, they're on the perimeter. So oftentimes you don't even have to go into the casino. They have their own patios and everything, and that's, and after the casino world where I came from on the Strip, unheard of from the old days. You had to go inside. But now we're figuring out what these guys and what you guys already know. There's a better way to get the dollar, but we need your time. And that's why the experience concepts are so important to the future of, I think, gaming in this country.
If I can build off of something that Randy just said, like the critical mass is important. It's one of the things that we've really kind of focused on is having a lot of different experiences in one location, because we find that people like to do 2 or 3 things at a time. And having a kind of consistent point of view, for those of you that have been in Area 15, the theming, the lighting, everything's consistent. And we've seen a lot of these kind of smaller experiential concepts open up in a mall, but open up by themselves as a one-off, and you feel that it's in an old Macy's or in an old Dillard's. And it just doesn't feel right, but it's also not surrounded by kind of like-minded experiences. And we're right now getting about a 3-hour dwell time at Area 15, off the Strip, everything about that. And we're looking to expand that by adding Universal, adding experiences kind of as we grow north. And it really is about having that critical mass and having all those things to do in one location, because we notice that people spend an hour axe throwing, and then they'll go spend another hour at the barcade and then eat and do those type of things. Whereas if they kind of have to go to one place for one thing, you definitely see less of that traffic.
So I think this is a good transition into your big 20-acre expansion. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on if everyone else doesn't know about Universal and everything happening?
So Area 15, as part of our kind of parent company, Fisher Brothers, we sit on an 80-acre parcel that kind of runs up actually to our neighbors in the North Palace Station. And right now, Area 15 sits on 15 of those acres. We're expanding to an additional 20, which adds about 300,000 square feet of immersive retail. As that, Universal Studios will be anchoring that as with a kind of Halloween experience. We've announced iFly as a second tenant up there, and we'll be announcing more. And really, that's about kind of creating that additional dwell time, and also making Area 15 hopefully a 2-day experience if we can get people to come out one day to do kind of the current building and then a second day to do the district and Universal. That would be a huge win, and I mean that's kind of based on what theme parks are doing on a bigger scale with 2 gates and getting people to come back 2 days. We hope we can achieve that here in Vegas.
I'm very excited to spend 2 days there.
Funny story. Randy and I did part of the assemblage for the original Fisher Brothers Stations partnership when we were under roof at a brokerage house, and he bought like 40 or 50 houses.
Yeah, he's knocking the door back there and almost got shot a couple of times. Hey, I'll buy your house. I said, I'm serious. There's cash right now. Beat it, kid. You know?
All right. So can we talk about how strip deals are typically structured? Frank, you can probably speak to this. I feel like it's kind of a mystery to a lot of people.
And me too. So maybe we all can collectively decide how it is. You know, it really depends on who's the landlord, who's the tenant. Today you're seeing a lot more traditional deals, especially in experience stuff where casinos would say, hey, we'll stick you in the back, put you on percentage rent, give you a bunch of money, and whoever controls the IP operates it. Now you're seeing more of them get away from that model and go, let's do kind of a standard, you know, landlord-tenant deal. So it's not atypical from what everyone's doing, you know, in the suburbs. It's, you know, you have a landlord, you have a tenant, you have rent, and, you know, you have TI. The challenges with entertainment uses is they're capital intensive. So these tenants are spending, you know, decent ones are spending $500 up to like a Universal will spend $1,000 or $1,200 a foot. When you're talking box type rents, it's you know, you're going, all right, that's 5 years rent. So how do you make a return as a landlord? So they have to look at it differently as going, I'm getting a return on capital, but I'm also getting 1 million people in my building that I wasn't getting before. And what's the RevPAR for those people? So all of those factors come in. We as brokers aren't on that side of the calculation, it's the landlord. But they're not atypical to what happens, you know, in the suburbs. Just the numbers kind of scale up.
Okay. A little less mysterious now. Randy, can you talk on how deals are structured at Durango and other stations properties?
Yeah, so what I like to do is get
Can I say slowly?
2,000, yeah, slowly. Yeah, that's a big deal. I asked for $2,000 a foot in rent. And, no, yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, I think Frank is right. Look, it's all based around what if there's somebody we really love, that's so cool that we got to have them. It's like, you know, we're gonna make them a sweet deal. But most of our deals are pretty much like he just said. It's a base versus a percentage over a certain number of sales, you know, and obviously the higher the base goes, their percentage rent becomes ridiculous. They'll have to do $40 million a month to pay you that kind of rent. And then, you know, but the biggest issue is building these things, like you just said. The costs are unbelievable. I mean, I know you guys are seeing it, right? And especially just before we built Durango, everything doubled. Cost of steel, cost of wood, and believe me, it was intense. You're like, oh my Lord, you know? But that's cost of doing business, and we just have to figure it out. But our deals are simple. You know, I think I've been successful because I think like a little kid. It's not rocket science for us. It's there's the deal, there's the rent, this is what I'll give you. But the key in casinos, if you guys do casino deals or work with casinos, everything's more expensive because we demand a little bit more. You know, we want whatever we do, it has to have that wow factor. And if it doesn't, we'll have to replace them pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And that's the cool thing about casinos in some sense. In the old days, I used to work for a gentleman named Tony Marnell at the Rio. And again, I was new to the business, but he was replacing stuff every month, restaurants. And now, you know, he owned the joint and it was his money, but he figured out quickly, if it doesn't work, let's replace it with the next thing. And so we don't want that to happen now because everything costs so much, right? So I think as we bring tenants in, we ask for a lot. We ask them to look fantastic. We want you to have the best experience of your life. Like when you walk, you know, when you drive up to Durango and you're out there on that street, we want, you know, I think your experience starts from when you see Durango, when you go into the parking lot, when you get ready to walk into the building. I want you, I think all of us as owners of those properties want you to have that wow factor. So your experience starts right there. So everything, it's not a money factor. It's what can you do to make your concept blow everybody away. I want you to leave Durango and say, you know what? I've been in New York, I've been all these places, London, everywhere. Nothing is cooler than that restaurant I went to. So that's what we're looking at. And that's what's driving the cost, but it's worth it for the tenant and for the landlord.
So I think that segues into one of my questions that I was going to ask all of you, are just what are some factors that make up a good concept in experiential retail, and how do you choose who to gamble on? I mean, there's tons of people out there with great ideas, but how do you pick who can execute?
There's a lot of great ideas. No, like for us, it's about kind of finding people that can kind of tick 3 key boxes to do this. And it's the great idea is sometimes the easy part, but then finding someone that has a great idea, is funded in a way to kind of build to the scale that Frank's talked about, and also has the ability to operate. And it's somewhat challenging to find people that can do all 3. There's only so many Meow Wolves and Universals that have those 3 capabilities. And as Area 15, actually, we've somewhat changed our business model, and we're probably the exact opposite of Randy. None of our deals are simple because sometimes we're partnering with the tenant to do operations on their behalf, or sometimes we're taking a kind of equity stake in some of these, just to kind of, it's such a young industry, and like I said, finding people that can do all 3 of those things is few and far between. But sometimes the idea is just good enough that you have to find a way to make it happen.
I mean, building on that, those are definitely the 3 legs that, I think you need, whether it's, from a landlord side for sure, or even as a partner, you need a couple of those legs. Design, I think, is something that's key. So if there's like no there to the moment, like it doesn't matter if they can operate it. If it's not, Randy says a wow, if it's not something that's engaging, it's probably going to be a loss. It also has to, I think, be something that connects. So again, you could have great operational people technically, but if the experience doesn't connect with people, and like the 5 senses, and give them a great memory or whatever, or picture for social media, and those are like tertiary to what Michael was talking about, but those are some of the things that you definitely want to see. We've seen like some of the like mature companies that don't have the IP or the ideas. Like we're now partnering those guys with tenants that we run across, where like you got great IP or whatever, but you don't have capital, or you don't have a signature, or you don't have operations. So we're partnering some of our clients with some of the new up and coming clients that we see, because Vegas has become such an inbound destination for these type of uses because of the success of like a Meow Wolf and other things. So we're partnering our mature clients that have operational, background and capital with some of the new guys, and making deals happen that way.
So I think that transitions into my next question, which you basically answered, is there's a lot of challenges that come with doing these types of deals with, new tenants with bad credit, good ideas, no money.
No credit.
Great idea, no space. So what are some challenges you guys are seeing across the board?
But, how do they sign a lease is a big one. It's not as big of a challenge if it's like, with the stations who, like, it's not a primary business, but if it's a new development mall, you got to credit enhance the deal. And if it's a high rent deal, you're like 2 years rent is, part of your TI budget. So like, how does a tenant overcome that? They don't. So you have to figure it out some way, somehow. Also, configuration, and Michael can talk about this as well, is, tenants, in that space tend to need high ceiling height and big boxes, and for the most part, single story. So if you're talking about the Strip, where do you find a 25 or 50,000 square foot box that has 35-foot deck to deck?
And no columns.
Or no columns, or few. Yeah, so, so the physical requirement tends to be a challenge as well.
Are you seeing the same thing in your realm?
Yeah, the same. I mean, when I look at businesses that, and I think Michael said right, there's a ton of good ideas, a lot of crazy good ideas. Some ideas that you look at and you're like, that's so stupid, it's amazing, it's going to work. But the biggest deal about geniuses is you have to control them a little bit into a business environment. And in my particular case, I report to the ownership. And these guys are pretty hands-on. They're smart. They own the UFC so they're not dumb folks. And so what I try to do to cover myself is I bring in these guys in to meet with them and share the vision of the properties of what we're trying to do. But I think what these guys both said, to me, the most important part when I look at these outside companies that want to come do these amazing things is, one, are they real, right? Do they have any kind of money? And and can they operate a business? That's the most important thing, because they're super smart, but super smart doesn't always dictate running a business, and vice versa. So those to me are so important. And, going back to the whole, we keep talking about it, the cost to build these concepts is unbelievably expensive. And I can't have some goofball come in and he's a genius, but he can't complete a sentence,
Right.
And so those are things that we really focus on. And, I spend a lot of time with smart people like you guys. I'm always drilling, what's up with this guy? Is he real? Where is he from? Does he have any money? So those are things, again, simple things, but those are things that can bite you in the tail real quick if that person's not prepared. So that's what I look for.
The other big challenge is sometimes this isn't that company's core business. Like we're working with a lot of IP rights holders from movie studios, toy companies, et cetera, and running a location-based entertainment company is not their business. So just kind of getting them along, they've probably never signed a retail lease before, but yet they're a kind of well-developed company. So they have lawyers upon lawyers and finance teams that are working through a lease and an operating agreement and these things that are just such a diversion from their core business.
When we did Universal with them, I thought, like, they're this huge company, they know what they're doing. They'd never signed a retail lease before because everything they do in that category is inside their own theme parks. So, like, I'm looking at the LOI going, like, how do you guys not understand this? Like, and they're like, we've never done one of these before. I'm like, oh, okay.
I think that's important to speak on, too, the fact that Universal's never done something like this before, and they're taking a gamble on our city. Can you kind of speak on that and just how Vegas is becoming kind of the place where we want to be?
I'm sure Michael has some thoughts, but yeah, I mean, Universal, there's probably 3 other media companies that we work with that are entering the market and will be in the next 24 months. The whole idea behind Universal is, they understood the Meow Wolf numbers. Like, there was smaller numbers being done in Vegas, but all of a sudden when you look at a box and it's doing, tens of millions of dollars, there's a business case for them. So you go, okay, if that big box is doing, X, we think we're going to do, 1X. So yeah, to them it was a market that there's data points for them to do something. They're starting to do smaller, attractions around the country or parks. There was one in Texas they announced at around the same time that was like 20 acres versus like the one they're doing in Orlando that's like $6 billion. But like, even though it's a big gamble, on a relative basis, $100 million gamble for Universal is, a rounding error on the books. Some will get fired if it doesn't work, but it's still a rounding error.
Vegas is unique, probably only compared to Orlando in terms of the number of tourists that are coming in. And I think these companies understand from their experience with theme parks that having the revolving door of new customers means that you don't have to figure out the hard piece in a normal market, which is how do you get people to come back 2-3 times? You just have to get a lot of people to come once. And I mean, we're seeing some return visitation, but being able to trade off of 40 million plus tourists is a lot different of a marketplace. And then, like Frank said, they're getting smaller. Like everything in kind of this entertainment business and location-based entertainment is getting smaller on a relative basis. It's getting bigger from retail because they need 20,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet, but that's a lot different than building a theme park, which is a $6 billion investment.
Right.
One thing I skipped over, I probably want to say, is Vegas has been an experience economy like since forever, right? Gambling is an experience, dining, shopping. We touched on it earlier. And as gambling has become, a smaller portion of the overall tourist budget, they're spending it in different places. They're spending it on nightlife, they're spending it on F&B, they're spending it on retail, and now they're spending it on experiences. An experience.
Right. And I remember you were talking earlier when we had our pre-call about how these models are getting smaller and it's easier to keep up with innovation and trends and kind of adapt based on your market. When you're doing millions of square feet or huge theme parks, can't really do that. You're not changing Disneyland, right?
Yeah, everyone wants kind of the word immersive is the word that keeps getting used, and really that's about the blend of technology and kind of staff and different experiences to give a one-for-one experience so that person feels like an individual as they're coming in and they're getting that. And to integrate that technology into a theme park is near impossible, especially as much of the technology is either unproven or new. So doing 100,000 square feet and introducing that technology allows for that new innovation and that change.
Can you speak on anything in Stations Casino? Are you aiming for the more traditional tenants, or are you kind of leaning towards, are you getting FOMO in the experiential realm yet?
Yeah. The good thing for us is we don't really do retail per se, but the experience retail is what we're looking at. I think all of us look at what's next, in our business, like in your business, right? You do a deal, you're only as good as your next deal. I mean, because how you make a living. So for me and for us as a gaming company, we're only as good as our next experience that we offer the guest. And what these guys are doing is the next phase of our industry. So yeah, I look at what the Strip does, and I'm like, why don't we do that? Why can't we do that? And we can, because we have some money. We can do those things, right? But I think that we have capability to even do some things that the Strip guys can't do because they're landlocked. A lot of these, like, again, I work for Caesars Entertainment with all these properties. We didn't have a whole lot of land. You can only do so much. I had put stuff in the basement of Bally's, which was not good real estate per se. So, but we had to play around that. We have these boxes. We have all this land. So we can do great things that will still give us, these huge returns on our investments that the Strip guys perhaps cannot do unless they have these huge boxes like Mandalay has to fill with their new putt-putt thing. So yeah, we definitely, I think you'll start seeing it at Durango. As we complete that property, you'll see some things that haven't been done in the suburbs. And we're super excited about it. I'm super excited about it. Now, once I get that open, I'll have to go back to opening like pretzel stores and stuff like that. But, but these are things we're looking at. So yeah, we are definitely engaged. And he talked about pickleball earlier. I've said to my guys, and again, I talked about dart throwing and everything, and from a gaming standpoint, we're always worried about liability. To your point, somebody gets drunk, they throw a dart, hit somebody in the head, we're all going to get sued. But that said, why can't we take pickleball and put it in a casino, but take it to the next level? There'll be a club, people will drink, they'll eat. Those are the types of things that we can take even outside, these parks, put it in our joint, So all these things, they're not super, super savvy, but we can take what the customer is looking for from an experience standpoint into our casino. And again, we'll get their time. And that's what we're looking at.
Yep. Well, I think, speaking of time, we have a few minutes left, so want to just gather some closing thoughts. Michael, if you want to start, just what do you want us to take away about experiential retail?
People are looking for a story to tell. That's really why people come to Vegas and come to experiential retail. They want to go home, back to their neighborhood, and have this story that they can probably tell 5 times at different parties, and have that memory. And that's really what we try and deliver to the guest.
And the photos, obviously.
And the photos,
the
always.
Instagrams, the TikToks.
Instagram is how 20-year-olds tell stories now, right?
That's
you
true,
don't have to
yes.
talk to people.
Yes. 20 to 30, I'd say.
Like that.
Frank, what you got going on?
I don't know. I think a lot of what Michael said, or what he said, pretty much, is going to hold true. Probably even what Randy has to say. I think what the future looks like is vastly different than what it looks like even today, because we're looking at deals that are happening 2 years out. So like we and Michael, Randy, some things we're doing, we know what the landscape's going to look like in 2025, and it's going to be wider and more diverse. And I think a lot of companies operate at a much higher level and making bigger bets in Vegas.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think all of us, as we develop whatever you develop, strip centers, warehouse, whatever, we have to think 5 years, 10 years down the road. Again, everything costs so much, we got to pay ourselves back. But I look at like Area 15, and we talk about it a lot in our offices. What are they doing that's so good? And can we do that in our joints? And I think that what you'll see in the next 10 years, Vegas, as I said earlier, I'm the biggest fan of Las Vegas in the history of the world. I think it's the greatest place. I think what you see today, Lord, 10, 15 years from now, forget about it. We're going to blow it. This town will blow this world out because we do the best. Think about talking about experiences, the sports teams in this town. Golden Knights Look at that. But you go, it costs you $1 billion to go to a game, right? But you go for the experience before the game, right? Even though watch hockey, you go. The Raiders, they win 6 games. You go because the Legion's cool, right? You know? But those are experiences that you'll pay for, right? People don't, I mean, you know, that's the deal. And so in casinos, what they've done so well is they created that vibe, but we're going way beyond that in the suburbs. And so, again, what you see now, 10 years, you're going to be like, oh, my Lord. Man, this place is crazy. And that's what we're continuing to invent in Las Vegas.
You heard it here first.
There you go.
Randy for mayor.
That'd be a good one.
Dan, where are you? Do we have questions?
So I'm getting too much of attention now, but the one that really deserves the attention for this program is Mariana. I get a lot of credit because Reed calls me out and says DT and all this stuff, but it's the program committee that comes up with the idea. It was Mariana's that puts the panel together and does the hard work. And maybe for the first time ever at NAIOP, we as an audience are going to sing her happy birthday today. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Mariana. Happy birthday to you. We did get a lot of questions. This is a fun thing to talk about. People really enjoy retail. It's around them all the time. Out of all the questions, and we'll try to get to them all, my favorite is, do brokers get paid?
By casinos? Randy will, but none of the other casinos will pay you.
Well,
Sounds like a no.
no, they do. They do. Absolutely. We don't want to screw nobody
But there's a
over.
broker component in all of your deals?
Not all my deals, but...
No, I meant the whole panel. Is there?
Yeah. Yeah, in mine, there typically is.
I assume there's a
Yeah.
broker deal in most of Frank's deals. But yes, it is.
I'm pro bono.
Michael and
Yeah.
Randy, one of the questions was, you talk about dwell time, getting people there longer. How do you measure that? And then I needed a couple definitions from you on RevPAR and IP for the audience.
You know, we measure it hopefully by their players' cards.
They check in, check out? I mean, how does this work?
Basically, no, typically is, you know, we want to rate all of our players. Everybody comes in, we try to get you to have a card, and the majority of our good players do, or even our average players. And so that's really how we do it. We gauge your time, and then, you know, casinos are so sophisticated. They know exactly what you like to eat, where you like to sleep, what you like to wear, what you drive, your kids, all that mess. And so that's how we gauge your time. And if you're only there for an hour, we need to get you for a couple more. So that's how we know something works in our properties.
How do you gauge where they're eating, and if they're not playing but they're there for 5 hours drinking, hanging out?
To their habits, I mean, they may not eat that time, but they'll come out again. And if, you know, let's say they go to a yard house or whatever, you know, we know that they're there, and so we can do, especially in the, like, you know, in the steakhouses that we own.
How do you know they're there? At a restaurant?
Cameras?
No.
Facial recognition.
No, typically what they'll ask for is your card, even if you're in like our steakhouse. Are you a member? Do you have a card, whatever? We scan it quickly, and we can see how much they spent there, how long they've been there, and then we can offer, make specific offers. You know, let's say like in Louisiana, a guy likes catfish. He's at a casino in Louisiana. We'll do a catfish day just for that guy. You know, so that's how we do it. You want to make them feel like they're at home and that we're paying attention to them. And that's something that the casinos, I think, do better than anybody in the United States. They do a really good job at that.
IP is intellectual property. So like Ghostbusters, Sony owns it. It's their IP. They own the movie. They own all the imagery and characters. They could license it to you. You could open a Ghostbusters restaurant or whatever.
And RevPAR?
RevPAR is, I forget the acronym. I mean, it's the lift you get from investment. So if you say, I'm going to invest $5 million into this, I'm going to get a revenue per person lift off that investment, or new bodies in, and each revenue assigned to that person.
Michael, there was a question about what is the percentage of locals to tourists at Area 15? And can you speak a little bit more about Universal and that?
Yeah, so the locals to tourists, we're doing about 75 to 80% tourists at Area 15, which we actually think is a pretty high percentage of locals for kind of asking people to come out and kind of experience. So we're happy with that split. In terms of what Universal is doing, it's a Halloween-based experience that'll be open year-round. So your horror-based with their IPs, they own a lot of kind of the monster IPs. So it's 100,000 square feet of about 300,000 square foot expansion in our property.
Another question was, can each of you talk about one cool concept that's already in the market but not at one of your properties?
Spear.
He's a paid endorser for the Spear.
Yeah. No, I think, again, going back to Area 15, to me, when I walked in, I saw the axe throwing. And, when I first got in the business, I couldn't even do like a tattoo store because they were scared about sticking somebody with a needle or, the oxygen bars or whatever. And so I look at some of those. I would love to do axe throwing or dart throwing. I think it's there, man. That's what people do. And they'll spend, again, time at your joint. And those are the types of things I'm trying to convince my people to allow me to do.
A follow-up question to you, are there any restaurant spaces still available in Durango Station? And do the owners own any of the restaurants?
First question, no. Thank God. Us. Secondly, yes, we own a steakhouse, oyster bar, everything else. This is different from our typical model and different a lot of casinos. Again, because we're a gaming company, we're not super good restaurateurs in some cases. We try to lease out everything. So, so we'll just own a couple places. That's it.
There was a question just in general in gaming. You guys represent, Frank, you see a lot of the strip gaming, and then you see locals gaming, and I just heard that you guys are going out to LOSI, or announced for LOSI perhaps. It's not a silly question. Is everyone bullish on gaming, the gambling portion of?
Absolutely, 1 gazillion%. Our goal at Station Casinos is to double our portfolio in the next 10 to 15 years. And we own land all over this city, and we are extremely high on gaming because the numbers are there. We just got to do everything else we've just talked about to get the people in the joint. And so, this town we're set to go for the next 10 gazillion years.
If I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to ask for money and they're asking me how much I'm worth, I'm going to have Randy go.
10 gazillion.
That's how I lease. You got $10 gazillion? Come on in.
Is there going to be a movie theater in Durango Station or any of your new properties?
There is. Theaters are interesting now. Talking about experiences that have gone this way. But there definitely is, and I think you guys do one across the street. So there'll be tons of movies down there. I mean, you can't miss a great new movie coming out if you're in that area. So yes, definitely.
We had a general and detailed question on escape rooms. Is that more neighborhood? What's the escape room thought?
Escape rooms are sometimes a challenge. They're not a great throughput experience, and by throughput I mean just the number of people you can get in an hour or in a day, and they're pretty high touch from a staffing point of view. I think there's some interesting models coming out on escape rooms. I love what Jason Egan's doing with Saw and It and Blair Witch in town, where he's kind of blended a traditional haunted house model with an escape room, which allows for kind of a much higher throughput and payback on those. So kind of that's my view on escape rooms as well.
Pretty much the same thing. I think escape rooms, they haven't yet started bundling. So an escape room throughputs, it is what it is. There's only so many cycles a day you can do. There's only so many hours a day people would do it. And what do they do after that? They leave. Some of the escape rooms on the Strip, I think one at the Venetian has a bar, but it's not a moment that's there. It's kind of like, let's just stick a bar on here and hope people stop at it, and they really don't. So once the escape rooms figure out, how to bundle, you'll see them as probably still a category that's valid.
If there's any other questions out there, usually I'm roaming around with a live mic, but feel free to ask them. Is there any off-strip venues that you know about for music, such as the Brooklyn Bowl, which is not off the strip, but anything you've heard of?
I don't know, Randy, is there?
Well, we're looking at stuff, definitely. There will be.
We can't talk about
Can't talk about it, but there will be.
We told you can't say that. You can't talk about it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
There's a question on golf. Obviously, Topgolf kind of led the way. Now we have Atomic Golf at the Stratosphere. Tiger Woods is doing something. The Swingers at Mandalay Bay. I think, Frank, you mentioned others.
There are others in the category.
And the Water Authority said we can't have golf.
Right.
All in the same program.
Luckily, I think other than Tiger Woods, those are all like indoor courses with no real grass, so we're good. There's others out there. There's putt shack and puttery. I think like it's a crowded field, especially here in Vegas, where you've got Topgolf and you've got Atomic, which is doing what they're doing. Puttery's making a huge bet, like it's a huge bet on miniature golf, $50 million. And then, Tiger Woods doing Pop Stroke at Town Square. The others will probably come, but I'm not sure, if there's room. That's a category where, we think everybody looked at the strip and they've done strip proximate deals. Like the smart guy's going, I'm going to go where my competition is not there. Head him off at the pass. Yeah.
Frank, we have 5 minutes left, and you guys can kind of talk about some of the fun stuff. But Frank, probably you most, but what was maybe the best deal that came to you that you wanted to happen that didn't happen? And you can go back.
All of them?
Not the one that paid the most.
I have to think about that one. Repeat the question again, just so I understand it.
What is the best deal that didn't happen on the strip, in your opinion? It was a good product, a good concept. We can get back to you.
Yeah, I'm not
Michael,
sure how to answer
what is
that
the
one.
craziest ask you've had
Craziest ask?
of a tenant? I mean, you have axe throwing, so was that crazy when they sat down with you the first time?
I don't think it was ever crazy. One of the things that we try and do as Area 15, and this is going to cut across your answer, but we don't bring in a whole lot of stuff that's not unproven. Dueling Axes had an experience in Columbus, Ohio that they were already operating. Meow Wolf already had Santa Fe open. Emporium already had Chicago. So as crazy as kind of some of the stuff seems by kind of putting it in a kind of high visibility market, we are really truly looking for people with proven track records. So that makes it a little less crazy when you put it in those terms. I mean, an immersive distillery that's distilling 100 proof rum and doing a circus acts sometimes seems pretty crazy.
That's good. And that explained a lot about that, because a lot of times people come to Las Vegas and they want to plant their flag here first to prove it everywhere else. I'm sure Frank sees that all the time.
We see it, but we also see folks that, it's probably a 50-50 split. We see folks that have a concept that they haven't yet done, but we also see folks that have the concept in another city or come from the U.S., the UK. We work, and we have media companies like, Michael was alluding to, that they're big, huge conglomerates, but it's their first time running their own IP in a physical location. LBE means location-based entertainment, which really just means it's entertainment that you're participating in that's in a location other than your home. LBE, it's pretty simple. But most of these media companies license their IP, like the Song. The IP there is they're not running those, they're licensing it.
Is it too soon for a question on Tillman Fertitta's casino on the Strip, for any plans he has?
Well, he's not affiliated with us, but...
I wasn't asking you, I was asking Frank, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen plans. He's got a footprint site that he's going to put really high density on, similar to like density of Cosmo. So it's going to be vertical. He has his own brands, so it's all going to be in-house. I'm sure he'll do a great job.
Any other questions from the audience? We're going to bring Reed up and end this. Thank you, Mariana. Happy birthday.
Areeba. Big hand for Areeba. Yeah. That was an awesome program. This panel, these guys are experts. You can only find that here at NAIOP. Really great job, guys. I think this is a panel I think everyone's going to want back at some point, so we could hear about all the stuff that Randy won't talk about right now. Dan, Mariana, and the whole committee, great job on this. And we'll see everyone next month on third Thursday right here at the Orleans. Thank you, SNWA, for breakfast sponsorship.